Run.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to On the Run. Greetings from Adelaide. Yes, it's sunny Adelaide, or as some people in Australia call it, Radelaide. And this will be the last On the Run from Australia for quite some time. I am going to Singapore next week, and then we'll continue Singapore, Cambodia, Philippines, and so on. So let's get into and I'm staying at a very nice hotel here, not Sky City, but I will be visiting Sky City while I'm here in Adelaide and just checking it out and having a look. That's all. Nothing, no stories, but just having a look and refamiliarizing myself, particularly with Australia and Singapore and the Philippines, and also the rest of Asia post-COVID. Anyway, let's get into the news of the week. And we'll start with Macau. The MGTO director, Helena de Sena Fernandez, spoken at an event on Wednesday and said that the February average arrivals or daily visitation to Macau was 57,000, which is great, way bigger than it was during COVID, and more than half of the 108,000 per day we got through 2019. So that's good news, not fully back to where we were, but substantially a really good move back. And the MGTO is now predicting a daily average of 50,000 for the whole year, which I think is very achievable. Seems to be quite sticky, this visitation and this revenue that's coming through. I did say I wouldn't make a full call on that until late March, but we're nearly at late March. So in the next week or two, I promise I will make a call on that. However, the but is that she said that only 2.2% of that 50,000 were foreign being outside of mainland China, Hong Kong, or Taiwan, or Macau, of course, because people from Macau aren't visitors. So Greater China accounted for 97.8%. And she is hoping that with better access, with Hong Kong opening up and more flights from around the world and so forth, that eventually we could get that up from 2.2% to 10%. Well, honestly, no. We will not be able to get that up to 10%. Macau is not set up that way unless there are some dramatic changes with both the mindset of those in power in Macau and the infrastructure that is in Macau. That will not happen. Interesting to note, the top 5 feeder markets from outside of Greater China were the Philippines, Korea, Indonesia, Japan, and the US. Let's move on. Pansy Ho came out during the week and said that the Macau economy is back to 60 to 70% of pre-pandemic levels, but she said that the economy still faces many challenges to recover to its past economic performance, which is very true. Pansy Ho is absolutely right about that. And she talked about Hong Kong and Macau cooperating to make kind of a joint destination for mainlanders, and that was already happening to a certain extent. And we saw John Lee, the Hong Kong chief executive, come over to Macau, spent some time with Ho Yat Seng, the Macau CE, and they visited Galaxy. And yes, that is happening too. So Pansy Ho, absolutely correct in her statements there. The Macau operators this week submitted their sporting event plans to the government. You'll remember, as part of the licensing or reconcessioning, retendering, whatever you want to call it, that there were these 11 points, and one was sports tourism. And so they were asked to submit their sporting plans. The president of the Macau Sports Bureau, the head government official for sport in Macau, Pun Wen Kun, I'm not sure how to say that. He came out and made some comments Most of the new sporting stuff is going to be tennis and golf, could be a good area. And of course, we've had the GP, the Grand Prix for many years in Macau, and we've had some foot races in Macau. We've had the Macau International 10K and the Macau Marathon from Galaxy 2. So that will be interesting. Some questions around venues, around attracting sporting superstars to Macau, but the effort to do it is great. And let's see, I mean, in terms of golf, we've only really got the golf course down in Colorado at the Country Club. We've got the links course that was Caesars, but that's not really a world-class course. Anyway, moving on. JP Morgan came out and said that they thought the Macau operators would exceed their pre-COVID profits by 2025. So not this year, not next year, but the year after, on basically the back of two things. First of all, a better, more premium mass, much less. And the second thing was OPEX savings. So all 6 concessionaires went on a pretty drastic OPEX cutting drive during COVID. Who could blame them? And some of those savings, operators will operate more efficiently. Both of those things are true, and both of those things will lead to high profitability, and therefore Macau eventually getting back to where it was, you would think. But they ignore the one big thing, which was my comment, which is that it all depends on the mainland's reaction to all this and the mainland's posture. Will they allow this profitability to continue and to grow? Let's see. This week, China also resumed issuance of visas to foreigners, which is great, in yet another step of the death of COVID zero. So it was the 28th of March 2020 to the 15th of March 2023. So just 2 weeks shy of 3 years that there were no foreign visas, or very, very few foreign visas being issued by China. But now it's got back to basically what it was pre-COVID. Gee, 3 years of no foreigners coming to your country. Does that make your country a narrower, more isolated country with less broad thinking, less exposure to other ideas from other places in the world? I think it probably does. Anyway, the good news is that the visas are back and foreigners are coming in. So let's see how that all plays out. In the similar vein, we also had a story this week about China resuming tours to 40 more nations, group tours. So they had already announced back in early February 20 nations. They've added 40 more to that. Those nations don't include certain nations, which I'll get onto in a moment. But the question is, well, how do they choose? What are the criteria about which countries they allow group tours to? And they're basically four criteria. So the first one is strengthening safety and interests of tourists, whatever that means. Second one is implementing epidemic prevention and control measures. Third one is standardizing business activities. Well, that's vague. Fourth one is strengthening supervision and law enforcement. So number 1, number 3, and number 4 are all quite vague, and all could be read to mean no gambling or very little gambling. And if you look at the countries, I need to go through the 60 countries. I ought to do that for next week. I don't think there's many countries with a lot of casinos there. Also, travel agencies are required to refrain from activities that violate laws, regulations, or social morality, another very vague concept, and must effectively maintain the order of the tourism market, whatever that means. So if we're reading between all the lines there, destinations that have got casinos that market to mainland Chinese would not be very favorably looked upon, in my view. APAC, moving on, another story we did this week, APAC tourism tipped to reach only 50% of pre-COVID in 2023. Just going back to that last story, I think I should also mention that the 60 countries do not include Australia and do not include South Korea, both countries that do target mainland Chinese for tourism and have casinos. Interesting. Anyway, moving on. APAC tourism tipped to reach only 50% of pre-COVID levels in 2023. So Oxford Economics came out this week and said that they expect a full tourism recovery for APAC by 2025 or 2026. They mentioned that APAC economies rely too heavily on Chinese, and that the Chinese comprised 25% of regional tourism arrivals in 2019. And they're saying that 25% is too much. Well, Macau, we just had a story earlier that I talked about, 97.8%. Wow. And it's a goal, it's an aspiration to get that down to 90%. But it's 25% for the rest of the region. So it just goes to show how incredibly dependent Macau is on mainland China, and frankly always will be. Unless there's a massive change in Macau, it always will be dependent upon that, and it won't be an international hub, an international destination, unless there are major changes, which I don't believe Macau is prepared to make. Let's go over to the Philippines. So Wednesday was the 10th anniversary of Solaire. It opened on the 16th of March, 2013. So Wednesday was the 16th of March, 2023. Congratulations to Solaire. Wow, what a great success story Solaire is over the last 10 years. So the Inquirer, a major newspaper over in the Philippines, reported that its revenue for January, not sure how they got this number, they got it from a source, but they reported the number was $124 million US in 1 month, January this year. So that's a run rate of about 1.5 billion just for Solaire, just Solaire. So, you know, the sort of notional target in my head for the Philippines of 5 billion. Well, if Solaire alone can do 1.5 billion, surely Jakarta, Manila, City of Dreams, Newport World Resorts, all those casinos up at Clark, like Han Casino Resort, even the Cebu property, one there, another one to come, the PAGCOR properties throughout, you know, they surely should make up the rest. So I think 5 billion is very achievable. And of course, we've talked before about the target for the Philippines being possibly 10 billion by 2027. So I'm really, really bullish on the Philippines. I think it's a great market and a great jurisdiction. What else should I mention? I should also mention that full recovery of Solaire was without Chinese junkets too. So, gee, congratulations to them. And I was there late last year, walked through the property in great detail, and it's great. It's the gold standard. So that's what Jakarta, Manila has got to strive to achieve. That's what others in the Philippines have got to strive to achieve. And it's not just the Philippines, it's other properties around the region could well look at Solaire. I've been in Australia, as regular viewers know, I've been in Australia for nearly a month now. It's been a big, big trip. I've been to Sydney and Melbourne twice, and some other places as well, and been doing a lot of things and reconnecting with the industry in Australia. And you know, a lot of them have been asking me about the region and what are the casinos in the Philippines like? And I said, well, Solaire is fantastic. Frankly, it's probably better than the big ones in Australia in some ways. So it's a gold standard, all right. Moving on in the Philippines, PAGCOR cancelled the contract of that global RCI company that was hired in 2017. This was the company that was hired to track and audit POGO revenue for tax purposes, but there were allegations that they were fraudulent in their representations to win the contract. And finally, PAGCOR has got rid of them and says they'll do it themselves for the moment until they can get a new contractor. Let's go to Australia. So Star Entertainment obviously operates Sydney and the Gold Coast and Brisbane. Their Hong Kong partners, Chow Tai Fook and Far East, their shareholdings, the shareholdings of Chow Tai Fook and Far East Consortium in Star Entertainment, which obviously listed on the ASX, have been diluted down from 9.99% between the two of them. They're exactly the same level each, so sort of 5% each makes 10%, or just under 10%, to stay under the New South Wales and Queensland regulatory requirement to keep voting power under 10%. They have been diluted down to 6.86%. Stars described this as a temporary situation. The dilution occurred because of the fundraising that Star did, and even despite Chow Tai Fook and Far East Consortium putting in 80 million US of the, I think it was 425 million Australian placement, they've been diluted. But as I say, Star says this is temporary, so let's see what happens. Light and Wonder have been evaluating the idea of doing a secondary listing on the Australian Stock Exchange in addition to their NASDAQ listing, obviously to make them more global and stronger in the region, which is great. Resorts World Sentosa in Singapore partnered with Live Golf, this new breakaway golf tour for their Made in Singapore event. It's going to be at Sentosa Golf Club from 28th to the 30th of April. So that's interesting that Sentosa would do that. It's been controversial, this Live tour. Greg Norman is the sort of the driving force. Well, he's the face of it anyway, but there's a lot of money behind it. So anyway, let's see how that plays out. Still in Singapore, the regulator cracked down on cryptocurrency. They came out and said that there will be there are no plans for cryptocurrency to be legalized in the land-based properties, Marina Bay Sands and Resorts World Sentosa. They left the door open to accepting cryptocurrencies for video game type gaming and social gaming, but that doesn't mean they're going to do it. Singapore generally has had an anti-crypto stance, so this is sort of consistent with that. So, no cryptocurrencies in Singapore gaming. Look, that's it for this week. I'm going to enjoy my weekend in Adelaide, and then I'm going to pop back to Melbourne just for a day or two, and then I'm going to be on a plane to Singapore. So next week's On the Run will be from Singapore, and we will see you then. So after Singapore, I'm heading to Cambodia. I'm going to go to Phnom Penh and down to Sihanoukville, and then I'll get over to the Philippines. And while I'm over there, I'll visit Cebu, Clark, and of course Manila, and then finally Hong Kong and back to Macau again. So we have some interesting and exciting announcements coming soon. Watch this space. And if you're in any of those places and you want to meet up with me, please just go to the Contact Us page of asgam.com, of IAG's website, asgam.com, and get in contact with me through there or through LinkedIn or any other way. So that's it for this week. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week. Bye for now.
Run.